Steelers Nation, I believe it's officially panic time here in Pittsburgh. And today on the show, I'm going to be breaking down 4 reasons why I am out on this year's version of the Pittsburgh Steelers, at least until further notice. I do have my mind open to being changed as this team can improve drastically in some key areas. But today we've got 4 big reasons why the Steelers are struggling right now, why they've lost 5 of their last 7 games at this point, and why I think, although there's still stuff to play for, the division, stuff like that, in terms of any possible chance of going on a run in the postseason, at least at this point, in my mind, is over at this point during the year. Now, before we get into these 4 reasons here, and I kind of unleash on the Pittsburgh Steelers and my frustrations with this team this year. If you guys want change here in Pittsburgh, all right, whatever that change looks like, a new quarterback, a new head coach, if you guys want change here in Pittsburgh and you want things to change in terms of the way this team goes about its business, the way that, that they put themselves in position to potentially go on runs in the playoffs, all that different stuff, click that thumbs up icon, support the show. Certainly I think some changes should be on the way here in Pittsburgh this offseason. If you're with me on that, click that thumbs up icon. The first reason that we'll talk about here today why I'm out on the Pittsburgh Steelers is that the Steelers offense cannot throw the ball down the field, and it's not necessarily for a lack of trying or necessarily that they don't have even the receiving talent. They got speed to throw it down the field in this offense. I think it's more on the quarterback play with Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph, what we've seen from these guys. It just hasn't been good enough. And the truth of the matter is, guys, we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers play at a high level all the way back since week 7, all right, when he had that awesome performance against the Cincinnati Bengals. And, that performance offensively, put up over, 30 points, a bunch of yards, bunch of deep touchdowns, lots of good stuff in that football game that he felt really good about heading into future weeks. It was more at that point of the season just about figuring out the defense. But since then, since the Green Bay game, really, Aaron Rodgers has not played at a high level, definitely not at a league even average level. And when Mason Rudolph played against Chicago a couple weeks, obviously last week, he did not play well in that game either. So, guys are getting open down the field. We've seen Roman Wilson stat guys down, the sideline, and quarterbacks just not being able to hit him. We've seen DK get open at times, guys are getting open down the field, guys, and sometimes Arthur Smith is, scheming things open over the middle of the field to the intermediate and deep portions of the field. It's just the accuracy from the quarterbacks down the field this year in Pittsburgh is not good enough. And, now that we've had pretty much half of our games this season with poor quarterback play, and all of them have been the most recent. I just don't know if it's something that can be turned around at this point in the season. It also doesn't help that Jonnu Smith still plays a ton. When this team is in 3rd and long, they put Jonnu out there, and the opposing team just goes man to man. And Jonnu isn't a good route runner. He's not particularly smart in terms of sitting down in zones and zone coverage like Muth is. He's not a great hands catcher. In fact, he drops passes that he should catch, and he's not even that good after the catch. So Jonnu, not somebody that brings a whole lot of value to this team. Unfortunately, he still gets a full starter's workload. He plays more than Calvin Austin does. He plays more than Rowan Wilson does. He plays more than Pat Freiermuth does. And at this point, man, if they haven't seen, Jonnu Smith, as somebody that they got to take off the field, I don't know if they're ever going to see it at this point, and that's a damn shame. Now, you might be saying, well, Mason Rudolph hasn't been good enough. Aaron Rodgers certainly hasn't been good enough over the last, 7 games or so, 6 games or so. So you might be saying at home, well, let's just give Will Howard a shot. Let's see what he can do before the end of this season so we can make a decision as to what we're going to do at quarterback for the future. And all I got to say to that idea, guys, is don't waste your breath. And it's not even necessarily that I disagree with the idea of giving Will a chance to show what he can do before making a decision at this position next offseason. But the reality is the Steelers still have stuff to play for. They are tied at the top of the AFC North division this year, and this is Aaron Rodgers' season. So until, the Pittsburgh's playoff hopes are officially dead. Like, they got to lose against Baltimore next week. They got to lose to Miami. They got to lose to Detroit. And, Baltimore's going to have to run the table and pretty much end the Steelers' season. Maybe Will gets a game or 2 at the end of the year to see what he can do with the Steelers pretty much out of playoff contention at that point. But until that point arrives, expect Aaron Rodgers to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers because, despite the frustrations and despite losing 5 of your last 7 games, you are still tied at the top of the AFC North division. You still play the Ravens twice. It's still a possibility that the Steelers turn things around and still make the playoffs. So as long as that possibility is still there and you're hoping to see Will Howard, you're not going to see him until this season is officially over, in my opinion, or there's injuries. But plain and simply, guys, I think the only way that I could really see this Steelers team going on a run in the playoffs is if we get that same Aaron Rodgers we got in the first 7 weeks, where he was actually playing at an above league average level in pretty much every single stat category you look at. He wasn't throwing the ball down the field all that much, but he was playing very efficiently. He was playing accurately. He was playing very efficiently when he did throw the ball down the field, and he's just lost that accuracy down the field. I can't explain it, man. I don't know if it's the jam finger that he suffered pregame versus the Indianapolis Colts is still bothering him or whatever, but, it goes back even further than that, guys. The Green Bay game in Week 8, he didn't play a great game. So unless we get that first half Rodgers back down the stretch, I just don't know how this Steelers passing attack gets better down the stretch. And if this passing attack doesn't get more vertical and more explosive, I just don't see any way that the Steelers can take on the best teams in the NFL come playoff time, even at home, and win those football games. So we're certainly tracking towards having a new starting quarterback here in Pittsburgh in 2026, whether that's Will Howard, whether that's bringing in another veteran quarterback to be a bridge for, another quarterback that's coming in, or whether they just draft a quarterback next year and start him next year. It's going to be interesting to see what the Pittsburgh Steelers do at this position next season. So let me know what would be your preferred path. Who should be the Week 1 starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year? Should it be Will Howard, type WH? Should it be a bridge veteran that is playing ahead of a draft pick, type BV? Or do you think the draft pick next year, probably early in the NFL draft next year, should get the Week 1 start? Let me know what you guys think. WH for Will Howard, BV for bridge veteran, DP for draft pick. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to let you guys know about a great opportunity to get an awesome piece of Steelers apparel. While I tell you about that, get your answer to this question down there in the comment section. With that, I want to tell you guys about this great chance that you guys have right now, 25% off to get a Salute to Service Steelers hoodie in time for Cyber Monday here. Just use code CYBER60. When you use our link here, chatsports.com/pitsalute25, that link is down in the comments and description of today's show. And if you use that link and you make a purchase, part of the proceeds do go back to us here at Steelers Talk. So if you guys want a Salute to Service hoodie for yourself, or if you want to get one for a family member or a loved one, and you want to get it at a great price, 25% off right now for Cyber Monday when you use code CYBER60 at chatsports.com/pitsalute25. The second reason, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, why I'm out on Pittsburgh at this point in the season, guys, is that the Steelers think that they're a passing team when they're not. They should be a heavy running team, just like they were last year, by the way. They were top 5 in rushing percentage. And this year, I think the running back duo is better than what they had last year. And, I think Kenneth Gainwell has actually been a better complementary piece to this offense than Najee Harris was last year's this team's lead back. And I think Jaylen Warren has been a more effective number 1 running back than Najee Harris was last year as well. It's the best thing about this offense, plain simply. I mean, you got some good things in the Yak game. DK can do some good things in the Yak game, and same thing goes for Darnell. But when it comes to running the football and getting the ball out into your checkdowns to Gainwell and to Jaylen Warren, I think that this running back duo is the best thing that the Pittsburgh Steelers have about this team. Yet this team ranks in the bottom half in rush percentage this year, all right? I think they rank 18th, which last year they were top 5. They were 4th in the league in rush percentage with a worse rushing attack, and with a worse passing offense this year, they are passing the ball more. Now, I understand Aaron Rodgers wants to throw the football and all that different stuff, and, he wants to be, kind of the conductor out there, but, it's just not working, and, they're putting, the games in Aaron Rodgers' hands, and Rodgers is just not playing well enough right now. And frankly, guys, I thought Art's, really pass-heavy game plan yesterday versus the Bills was an absolute joke, plain and simply. I mean, they passed the ball 5 times more in the first half yesterday than they ran it. And I know that the run game wasn't super effective yesterday either, but just you have to keep committed to it. This is what you built the offense to be, a run-heavy unit. Jaylen Warren has exceeded expectations this year as the number 1 running back. Kenneth Gainwell has exceeded expectations as the number 2 running back. You have to get the ball in those guys' hands more, and unfortunately that just hasn't been the case on offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Now, riddle me this, guys. Let me know if you know the answer to this down there in the comment section. What do you get when you have an offense that can't throw the ball down the field, passes too much, and isn't good on third and pass situations? What do you get, guys? You get a lot of really quick drives, and you lose the time of possession battle, all right? And that is what we've been seeing very consistently from this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I mean, just yesterday against the Bills, guys, they didn't possess the ball for 20 minutes of game time. You get 60 minutes in a ball game, okay? And the Buffalo Bills possessed the ball for over 40 minutes of that ball game. That is an absolute joke, and the reason for that is that the Steelers offense is on the field immediately, all right? They go 3 and out more than just about any other team in the National Football League, and they get off the field extremely quickly, and that is why that they are dead last in time of possession differential in the National Football League this year. And by the way, they were last before yesterday's game. So now that the Bills put up over 40 minutes of time of possession yesterday, that lead is, or that deficit at the bottom of the league is only going to get worse. So this is going to be a huge issue for the Pittsburgh Steelers, specifically on defense, because this defense has been on the field for an eternity this season already. And even if you make the playoffs, guys, we've seen this in previous years where the defense is out there so much where they get gassed by the end of the season. And if you have to play the Bills again in the playoffs, if you have to play a really good offense like the Colts in the playoffs or New England in the playoffs, you are going to get absolutely toasted with this defense, which is just absolutely tired and gassed and done by the end of this regular season. And that's if you're lucky enough to get into the NFL postseason this year. Reason number 3 why I'm out on Pittsburgh here, guys, is that the Steelers defense can't consistently stop the run on defense. And there's obviously a lot of really good running backs in the AFC and in the AFC playoff picture. And listen, man, what makes this so frustrating is that the Steelers have actually done a good job limiting some of the better running backs in the league in moments. They've been a good run defense in some games this year. Travion Henderson only had 28 yards in the game against New England. Quinshon Judkins, one of the better rookie running backs. I mean, 2 of some of the best rookie running backs in the league. You hold them to less than 40 yards apiece there. And then Josh Jacobs, one of the premier top 5 running backs in the game, hold him to 33 yards against the Packers. Jonathan Taylor in that big win at home, you hold him to just 45 yards. He might win Offensive Player of the Year this year, all right? So you've seen it in spurts where this run defense can play well, but you just have too many big games from these guys. James Cook yesterday had 144 yards, all right? And that's on your home turf. That is embarrassing. You gave up over 100 yards to Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker and Chase Brown, and you almost gave up 100 again to Chase Brown at home a couple weeks ago, and you gave up almost 100 to Kamani Vidal. This is just not a consistent run defense here in Pittsburgh. And if you want to see a wild stat, Brooke Pryor posted this yesterday after the game. Says, this is wild. The Bills' 249 rushing yards were the most by any opposing team in Pittsburgh since the Bills rushed for 310 yards on September 28th, 1975 at Three Rivers Stadium. O.J. Simpson led Buffalo with 227 rushing yards that day. So it was a historic, kind of beatdown that the Steelers took. Now, I get it, man. The defense got tired in the second half. The time of possession battle, eventually attrition's going to set in, and they're going to be able to run the football more effectively as the game goes on. But that was an embarrassing performance, and frankly, we've had way too many of those embarrassing performances in terms of run defense here in Pittsburgh for a team that's supposed to be known for their defensive front, by the way. And by the way, guys, how can we expect to stop Derrick Henry? How can we expect to stop this guy that absolutely toasted us last year in the final 2 games that we played against him? I mean, just take a look at some of these numbers. He ran for pretty much an average of 170 yards per game and averaged 7.5 yards per carry in these 2 games alone. Had 2 touchdowns in the playoff game and, raked off a couple of really long runs. I don't see this Steelers run defense being all that much better than what they were last year. And I know Derrick Henry hasn't been unbelievable this year. But, like, I just don't see how this team stops him, especially in both of the games that they got coming up here over the next 5 weeks. And then, oh, yeah, you got to face two of some of the fastest running backs in the game back-to-back in Miami and Detroit here. And then you get Quinshon Judkins again. And who knows if you're going to be able to hold him down the same way that you did the first time. So this run defense has been super inconsistent. You got a murderer's row here of some of the best running backs in the league down the stretch. That just doesn't spell good things for this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I hate to break it to you. And if you're wondering why the inconsistencies are happening on defense, I would kind of break it down to these three categories. Keanu Benton consistently throughout this season, he can get penetration, but he can't hold the line of scrimmage very well. So you have to play either Derek Harmon out there or Y.A. Black on early downs. Also, the linebackers in this Steelers defense aren't in the right position consistently and don't tackle very well. Patrick Queen leads the NFL in missed tackle rate. Peyton Wilson is also sometimes out of position. I think Malik Harrison is the only guy that's really consistently in position in the run game, and he can't cover in pass coverage, so that's not great. So the linebacker play has been an issue all season long, and then Joey Porter Jr. Loses contain on the perimeter a lot. He loses his eyes in the backfield, and then guys kick it outside, and then they run right past him, and it leads to big gains. We saw it from James Cook time and time again in the Bills game just yesterday. JPJ has to do a lot better in run defense moving forward if he wants to be this team's number one corner moving forward into future seasons. And guess what, guys? If you think I forgot about the coaching staff, well, buckle up, man, because I'm just getting started here. Reason number 4 for why I'm out on the Pittsburgh Steelers is, yes, the coaching staff. This is not a well-coached football team, and I've made way too many excuses for Mike Tomlin and Tara Lawson. I've given them the benefit of the doubt time and time again. But we do not put guys in positions to succeed on really either side of the football, but especially on defense, all right? And what all this includes, not putting guys in the right position, what does that mean? Well, it means poor personnel decisions, who they decide to play and when, all right? Like playing nickel at the 2-yard line against the Bears and you get just duoed into the end zone. That's just poor personnel management. Playing Jonnu Smith as much as you have played him this season, poor personnel management. It's just not very good how they've handled the personnel and the roster this year, in my opinion. Also, pre-snap alignment issues, all right? Sometimes the Steelers lose the play before the ball is even snapped, just on the way that they are aligning their players up. So they're just getting straight up out-schemed by some of these top-end offensive coaches in the league. Also, miscommunication issues. This has been a common theme, especially over the last 2 years, which certainly points to improper teaching from the coaching staff to the players. And then also inappropriate schematic decisions, playing off coverage on 3rd down and 5, past the sticks. That's a stupid decision. All these different things. We've seen it time and time again from the Steelers coaching staff. And then also a lack of mid-game and halftime adjustments. How many times have the Steelers come in with a pretty decent game plan in the first half, have a lead in the first half, and then lose the game because they don't adjust to the adjustments that the other team makes coming out of halftime? All right, this is not a coaching staff that makes adjustments. This is not a coaching staff that comes in with necessarily great game plans on a week-to-week basis, and they are a big reason why this Steelers team is underperforming this year, and there's no way around it, guys. I've been a big Mike Tomlin fan pretty much his entire career here in Pittsburgh, but I am fed up with how poorly coached this team is, and this team was handpicked, by the way, by Mike Tomlin himself. He brought in all these veterans. He overpaid for Patrick Queen. He brought in Aaron Rodgers instead of starting over with a new, younger quarterback. He brought in the older guy again. Already brought in all these players, and it's just not working. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin. And what really sucks about this whole thing and this whole situation, guys, is that it feels like, yet again, even if the Steelers find a way, like Mike Tomlin seems to always do, to squeak this team into the playoffs, which is still very possible, by the way. Like we talked about, you still got the Ravens twice. You're tied at the top of the division. This team could absolutely still make the playoffs and even have a home playoff game. But what sucks about this whole situation is that it feels like this team is almost destined to lose in the first round of the playoffs, even if they get there, because of all the reasons that we've talked about today. They're not well coached. They don't defend the run well. They can't throw the ball down the field, all right? They pass the ball too much because Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to admit he's not a very good quarterback anymore. All these problems lead to a team that even if they make the playoffs and they skin their way through and they make the playoffs at 9-8, they're probably going to lose in the first round, and that's exactly the way it's felt the last several seasons here in Pittsburgh. So for me, guys, it's now or never for head coach Mike Tomlin, all right? Yeah, he's very close to getting to the 2-decade mark here in Pittsburgh, but listen, man, if he cannot turn this team around and get this offense to play better, if he can't get this defense to play more consistently down the stretch, I think Pittsburgh has to look to trade him in 2026, plain and simply, man. I just think we need maybe a new voice. We need a newer school approach to both sides of the football, maybe more of an offensive team building philosophy, all those different things. I still think there's good things about Mike Tomlin as a head coach, and I don't think he's like the worst coach in the league by any standard, but he has done a subpar job as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. And with the Steelers potentially going towards a rebuild in future seasons, I might want a different voice at the head of this organization moving forward. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Was the percent chance Tomlin is gone next season? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance. He's definitely back next year, to 100, meaning he is definitely out the door. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments section. Now, before I leave you guys here for our first video here on Steelers Talk here on an Overreaction Monday, I will say one thing, all right? And we've talked a lot of negative stuff around the Pittsburgh Steelers today, and for good reason, by the way. This team has severely underperformed, relative to expectations after a 4-1 start. But, one way or another here, guys, I will say Mike Tomlin, as the head coach of this team, has kind of this knack where, the team gets down to the lowest point and you hit rock bottom and you lose faith in this team, all of a sudden they start roaring back. And we've seen this out of the last 3 years. We're back in 2022. Steelers started the season 3-7. They were absolutely terrible, and it just seemed like a foregone conclusion. This was going to be the first losing season of Mike Tomlin's career. Then all of a sudden, roared back, won 6 of their final 7, nearly made the playoffs that year behind a rookie, Kenny Pickett. So, that was a kind of a miraculous turnaround there for Pittsburgh in that season. And then 2023, just a year later, after losing to the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football and having to start Mason Rudolph the next week against the Cincinnati Bengals, they went into that game with a less than 1% chance of making the NFL postseason, and they did. They won 3 straight games, and they got some help, and they made the postseason. Obviously, they lost in the first round, but, that was certainly a point where this team and the season felt over, and then they end up making the playoffs and turning things around. So as bad as everything is right now, and as much as things drastically need to get better for me to even consider this team like a legitimate, playoff threat moving forward, the division is still there for the taking, 100%. You're tied at the top of the division with the Baltimore Ravens. You play them twice. Lamar Jackson has not traditionally played very well against Steelers defenses, and we have seen this offense at certain points, namely the first half of the season, play pretty darn good football. If they could get back to doing that, and then the defense can put together some good weeks, and they can kind of cobble together their best football at the end of the season, maybe I can have a change of heart here and start believing in the Steelers team again. But it's just been so many inconsistencies, and it's been, a 2-5 record over the last 7 weeks, guys. I can only take so much. So for me, I'm out on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But even though I'm out on the Steelers' chances of being like a legitimate Super Bowl contender this year, that doesn't mean that my fandom or my love for this football team is going to go away. And if you're a real one and you love the Pittsburgh Steelers no matter what, and you're going to be with us throughout this entire 2025 NFL season journey, no matter what happens the rest of the way, type those real ones down there in the comment section. I greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. Later today, I will have my official film breakdown and takeaways from the film yesterday against the Bills. I'm guessing it's going to be very negative, just like today's video was, but frankly, guys, when it's warranted, we have to tell the truth here on Steelers Talk. It's just the way things need to be, and I'd love to be talking positively and glowingly about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if they turn things around, I'll happily change my tune. But right now, man, things are not going well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going to lie to you and say that they are, because they're not. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until later today, guys, here we go, Steelers.